You know, the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in the Valley of the Kings near Luxor, Egypt, is something straight out of an Indiana Jones movie. It's incredible. This valley, right on the west bank of the Nile opposite Luxor, which was ancient Thebes back in the day, was like the Beverly Hills of burial sites for Egypt's pharaohs during the New Kingdom period, from the 16th to the 11th centuries BCE. They chose it for its secluded, almost hidden location. It's like they wanted to keep it a secret from tomb raiders. By the time they buried Tutankhamun there, around 1323 BCE, it was already pretty crowded with royal tombs. Enter Howard Carter, this British archaeologist, who had this gut feeling that the valley still had secrets to reveal, despite what other experts thought. He was like a detective on a mission, funded by Lord Carnarvon, an English earl with deep pockets and a taste for adventure. And then, boom. On November 4th, 1922, Carter's team hit the jackpot. They found steps leading to Tutankhamun's tomb, KV62. This was a game changer, and the result of Carter's unyielding determination. The excavation was like a scene from a thriller. They first cleared a staircase and then found this sealed entrance with the Royal Necropolis seal. It was like a sign saying, "Yes, there's something amazing here." Carter was super meticulous, recording every single detail and snapping pictures like there was no tomorrow. When they got through the entrance, they found themselves in this antechamber that was like a treasure-filled room of wonders with chariots, beds, chairs, and all sorts of ritual objects. It was all a bit chaotic, which made them think that some ancient robbers had a go at it not once, but twice. But wait, there's more. Next to this antechamber was this smaller room called the Annex, stuffed to the brim with all sorts of goods. Then, the main event, the burial chamber. This was where the sarcophagus and Tutankhamun's mummy were. Talk about an awe-inspiring sight. And as if that wasn't enough, there was another room, the treasury, filled with precious objects meant for the afterlife. The array of artifacts they found there gave us this incredible glimpse into what life was like during the 18th dynasty of ancient Egypt. The tomb was smaller and less showy than others in the valley, but what made it stand out was how untouched it was, aside from the earlier robberies. This discovery was a goldmine for Egyptologists. It was like they hit the jackpot in understanding the burial customs, art, and day-to-day items from that era. The whole thing, I tell you, it was just out of this world. Now, the real showstoppers in there were Tutankhamun's solid gold coffin and that iconic gold funerary mask. You know the one, right? It's practically the face of ancient Egypt, decked out with lapis lazuli, quartz, and other colorful stones. Pure artistry. And let's not forget about the 6 chariots and those fancy thrones. They were like the Bentleys and thrones of their time, showing off the incredible craftsmanship and tech skills of the ancient Egyptians. But wait, there's more. The bling in that tomb would make any jewelry enthusiast green with envy. We're talking necklaces, bracelets, rings, amulets, all made from gold and precious stones. And then there were toys and games like the Senate board game, which give us a glimpse into the fun side of royal life back then. What's really mind-blowing is how intact everything was. Sure, some ancient tomb raiders tried to crash the party, but they didn't get far, and most of the treasure was left just as it was. The dry Egyptian climate and the sealed tomb did a fantastic job preserving everything, including organic stuff like wood, textiles, and leather. Now, the big guy himself, Tutankhamun, was resting in 3 coffins, nested like Russian dolls. The innermost one, solid gold. Talk about resting in style. His mummy was in pretty good shape too, which was great for the scientists. They went full CSI with CT scans and DNA testing on him. These scans showed us what he looked like and gave us the lowdown on his health. Plus, the DNA tests confirmed his royal lineage and even gave us hints about what might have caused his untimely death. Everything from genetic diseases to malaria has been on the table. So when you look at everything in that tomb, it's like a window straight into the world of ancient Egypt. It's a treasure trove of information about how they lived, what they valued, and even how they viewed the afterlife. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb isn't just a chapter in a history book. It's a cornerstone in our understanding of one of the most fascinating civilizations in history. Let's dive into this whole pharaoh's curse thing with Tutankhamun's tomb. It's like something out of a Hollywood script, but it's been part of the Tutankhamun story since 1922. This curse tale has become just as famous as the actual archaeological facts. So, what kicked off this legend? Well, it started with some pretty eerie coincidences. The big one was the death of Lord Carnarvon, the guy who funded the whole excavation. He died from a mosquito bite that got infected, and it happened just a few months after they opened the tomb. People started whispering, "Hey, isn't that a bit too coincidental?" The newspapers of the time went wild with this. They were all about spinning tales of an ancient curse smiting those who dared disturb the pharaoh's rest. They even cooked up this story about a curse inscribed at the tomb's entrance, warning of doom for anyone who entered. But here's the kicker. No such inscription was ever found. Classic case of the press letting their imagination run wild, right? This idea of a mysterious curse really grabbed the public's attention. It was the perfect mix of ancient Egypt's allure and the supernatural. But let's get real for a second. Scientists have looked into these supposed curse-related deaths and come up with more down-to-earth explanations. Things like exposure to molds or bacteria that had been chilling in the tomb for ages. And when you look at the stats, most folks involved with the tomb lived pretty normal lifespans for that time. So maybe this curse is more myth than reality. But let's not overlook the psychological angle. If you believe you're cursed, it might mess with your head and health, right? Now, despite all the spooky curse talk, the discovery of Tutankhamen's tomb is a massive deal in Egyptology. It's given us an unmatched look into the burial practices and life of the ancient Egyptian pharaohs. The cultural impact of this curse legend is huge. It's influenced art, literature, even movies, fueling this whole Egyptomania thing. The story often overshadows the real historical and archaeological significance of Tutankhamun's find. And let's not forget the artifacts from the tomb. They've been toured all over the world, drawing crowds by the millions. The tomb itself, out there in the Valley of the Kings, has become a major tourist spot, partly because of the enduring fascination with this supposed curse. So there you have it, the tale of the pharaoh's curse, part myth, part media frenzy, and a whole lot of cultural fascination. So let's talk about the Sumerian king list. It's like a hit list of ancient rulers, but with a twist. This thing is not just a boring roll call of names, it's a fascinating mix of myth and recorded history, giving us a peek into how the ancient Sumerians saw their past. Imagine finding not one but several versions of this list, all buried in the sands of time in different cities of Mesopotamia, like Nippur, Larsa and Ur. Each copy is a bit different, showing that the Sumerians kept updating their history, kind of like how we update software today. The oldest of these lists go back to the early 2nd millennium BCE. That's really old, but the traditions they talk about are probably even older. Now, these lists were written in Sumerian, an ancient language that was to the Sumerians what Latin was to medieval Europe, and they wrote it in cuneiform, a script made up of wedge-shaped marks on clay tablets. Think of cuneiform as the Sumerians' version of a keyboard, but way more artistic. Let's dive into the content. The king list starts off with these legendary, almost superhero-like kings from way back, even before the Big Flood. We're talking about kings like Alulim and Alalngar from Eridu, which was like the New York City of ancient Mesopotamia. These guys supposedly ruled for thousands of years. I mean, talk about long-term reign. But then as you move down the list, things get more real. It shifts to kings who are more historical, with more reasonable reign lengths. We even have big names like Gilgamesh of Uruk. Yeah, the guy from the Epic of Gilgamesh. He's part history, part legend. This list is not your average historical record. It's a mix of myth and reality, and let me tell you, it makes for a fascinating read. The early parts of this list are like something out of a fantasy novel, with kings who reigned for thousands of years. Can you imagine? We're talking about reigns longer than entire civilizations. But here's the thing. As you go further down the list, it starts sounding more like a history book. You've got kings whose names pop up in the archaeological records, and their reigns are a lot shorter, more believable. It's like the Sumerians were trying to tell us that their history is a blend of legend and fact, which is pretty mind-blowing if you think about it. They saw time as this continuous thread weaving together the mythical and the historical. Now, for historians and archaeologists, this list is both a goldmine and a puzzle. The mix of myth and history makes it tricky to use as a straight-up historical record. I mean, how do you separate fact from fiction when your source material reads like a blend of both? It's like trying to piece together a jigsaw puzzle without the picture on the box. And about those super long reigns, most scholars think they're symbolic, not literal. Maybe these impossibly long reigns were a way for the Sumerians to say, hey, these kings were really powerful, almost like gods. It's their way of showing respect and awe for these ancient rulers. But here's where it gets even more complicated. The king list doesn't always match up with other historical records. There are differences in the names, the order of the kings, and how long they ruled. It's like every version of the list is telling a slightly different story, which makes putting together a clear timeline of Sumerian history a real challenge. Despite all this, the king list is a treasure trove of information. It gives us a peek into how the Sumerians viewed their own history, their kings, and even their place in the universe. It's not just a list of names and dates, it's a story about power, religion, and society in one of the world's oldest civilizations. This list is a crucial piece in the puzzle of Mesopotamian history. It's like a guidebook to understanding the political, cultural, and religious fabric of early societies in Mesopotamia. So while it might be a bit of a headache for historians to figure out, the Sumerian king list is an invaluable key to unlocking the secrets of the ancient world. And as always, we hope you enjoyed our video today. Thanks for watching.